Allie Wildy, and today we are going to be talking about ways to make your upstyles pop for the upcoming season. So I just want to kind of say hello and thank you so much for watching, whether you're watching it now live or if you're catching us on a rerun later. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to try to keep an eye on the screen as we kind of move through to try to catch some questions, but I will have a designated time for questions at the end. So if you have a question or a comment and I kind of miss it, feel free to remind me again at the end and I'll try to hit everything so that we can kind of get everybody on the same page. So hello, if you guys could give me some thumbs up or some hearts if you can hear me, just so I can make sure that we're all in the same place. That would be lovely. Excellent. Thank you so much. So my name is Allie. I am here in upstate New York. I have been with Schwarzkopf for about 7 years now. And I'm really excited because we're getting into wedding season and delayed wedding season and graduation season and postponed graduation season, and it's summer and we're finally out and about, so we're able to do a lot of things. And so today I really want to show you different ways to really enhance any sort of styling that you're doing for these events, because we're all so excited to be back out and about that we want to make sure that everybody is looking and feeling their best. So does that sound good? So the first thing that I want to tell you guys is the easiest way to kind of bump up a upstyle is to have some dimensional color in the hair. So we can create a lot of movement using color that then we can play off of when we're doing our styling. So what I did for today was I utilized our Agora Royale high lifts. These are getting a whole facelift this summer, and we have new shades coming in. We have upgraded technology. They're going to be stronger and cooler. We're going to have a lot of the shades that we already really love, but we're also adding in some other options as well. We are going to say goodbye to some of the shades. They're going to be more of the warmer kind of beige tones. So that's something that we felt like not a lot of people were looking for when it comes to high lift color. We're really focused on having a full range of cool options and then kind of letting things go from there where you can really fine tune the tone that you're using. I wanted to showcase a placement. Don't be alarmed by my bald model. Coming back to work from being home for the pandemic, my biggest thought process was, how can I get the most amount of dimension, the most amount of high impact color with the least amount of work on my end? Because I'm going to have everybody ready to come in and I'm not used to kind of booking in the same way. I kind of want to spread people out a little bit more so that everyone can feel safe. So I'm really looking to get a lot of impact from not as much work on my end. So I came up with this placement here, and it has been my saving grace for like the last year. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this top triangle section here. And so I just marked these to show you kind of weaves and slices. So I'm going to take a triangle. This is going to work as a very diffused and soft money piece. So if you want it to be more of a block, you can absolutely do that, and I would suggest you just kind of eyeball it where you want it. If you want a really high impact piece, you know exactly where you want that piece. So for this is going to give us a little bit of pop right here, but not such a distinct kind of blocked out money piece. This is going to be a lot more diffused and softer. So we're going to take this triangle section and we're going to base this off of her part. So if she has a middle part, it'll be kind of temple to temple or corner to corner, and then bring it back to a point right in the middle. If you're working with someone who has a part that is off to the side, you're gonna do kind of heavier on the one side and then lighter on the other, with the point of your triangle still being on their part line. They're not gonna be equal on both sides, but you want them to kind of go together. Does that make sense? So we want balance, even if it's not symmetry. But so once we have that triangle section, I've come to find that there's always one side of the hairline that feels a little bit more like a straight line. And so I'm gonna start there and work my way through. It's gonna become diagonal sections within that triangle. So the easiest way to get a lot of dimension without being able to see exactly where your pieces are coming from is to flip it on a diagonal. So we know if we go straight across that part line, we're gonna see blonde pieces on each side of our part. If we flip that on a diagonal, we're gonna see a lot of blonde, we're gonna see a lot of dimension, but we're not gonna see exactly where that is coming from. It's all gonna be very blended and soft. So we're gonna take that start at our hairline. I like to do a weave right at the hairline. And then depending on what you want your finish to be. So I like to do a couple weave slices and then move into just weaves like I did here. If you want a little bit more boldness in the front, you can do more weaves or more slices in the front, or you can do the whole thing as weaves. It's totally up to you. But the idea is to concentrate on this kind of top section here without worrying about coming too far back. We're still keeping this kind of a shallow section so that we can really pack some lightness in here. Does that make sense? So we're gonna go ahead and do that first. And then when I move to the sides, I am looking for a lot of kind of bold dimension. So I'm looking for us to be able to see ribbons of lightness, but I don't want it to feel like stripes. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start at the hairline, and that's gonna be a diagonal piece just by the nature of what a hairline looks like. So we're gonna start there and then just kind of keep that same angle as we move back. And then if we pivot just a tiny bit, it's gonna bring us right up to our part line. So does that make sense? We're gonna go here and then just keep that angle, don't lose your angle, and then just at the very last minute, give it a little pivot to get up to our part. And then we're gonna be able to cover most of the head just with those three sections. So for my model today, I used the 10-21 in high lift, and I alternated with the 10-14. So that's why I've got two different colors here. But I also feel like you don't have to do this many sections in order to get a lot of impact. I feel like when you have a little bit of an angle, you can start to skip bigger pieces back this way without it feeling like you're not fully dimensional and taking into account the whole head of hair. And I also feel like a little bit goes a long way through here. So my client model, lovely friend, wants to get lighter and lighter, so we did pack them in a little bit here, but I can also really spread these out and still have a ton of dimension without as many foils. These sections do get pretty big as they go across. You can either break them into two sections if that's more comfortable for you, or I do have a nice little trick that I do where I will take my comb at an angle and fold my foil around it this way, and now I have this much space across for the top of my foil, and it's just an easy way to utilize one foil to cover more space on the head. And then when I fold this up, if it goes over there, I just kind of fold that back down so that I can still move them and I'm still able to kind of work around the head, but I was able to cover, you know, an extra ½ an inch to an inch by putting this at an angle. And it just helps me move through the head a little bit quicker. I'm all about work smarter, not harder. So that's gonna bring us all the way through this section. And then honestly, in terms of the back of the head, it's up to you. A lot of mannequins aren't the most realistic when it comes to how this part of the head works, but a lot of times if you bring things back this way, this is going to create a veil that will fall over the whole back. And a lot of times I don't feel like I need to foil anything back here. If someone's head is a little bit more, like this part kind of comes up a little bit higher and you feel like this is too much to not have any dimension in, I would throw in just some very simple spread out diagonal foils back here, just enough to blend everything. We want our impact to be kind of up here and then especially in the front, so we don't need to pack a ton in back here. But in this case, I did throw a couple diagonals across here and then just a couple down here as well. Again, I'm using the black foil marks to be my 10-21, and I'm using the light purple to be my 10-14. So this is the placement that I have been doing. I sometimes will start here and kind of pivot as I go up and really leave a lot of this back kind of left. That makes things super, super soft and diffused. It's a very natural finish because you're very light around the hairline. You get this pop right in the temple because so many of your foils are hitting right there. And then it's much more spread out towards the back. It's kind of like an upgraded, updated partial foil. If we're keeping that angle, we're gonna get a lot more boldness with our pieces as they come through. So use that to your advantage. If you want someone who wants some more boldness, let's keep that angle and keep bringing it back. If you want it to be a little softer, a little more diffused, you can get it on a pivot and bring that up. Either way, if you keep the angle, you're gonna butt right up against your part line and you will have a highlight that sits right on that part line. If you pivot your way up, you're gonna butt up against the back of this triangle, and so your part line is gonna be kind of in the mix with up here. Does that make sense? So just so that we are all on the same page, I did say that I use the Agora Royale high lifts. I just want to remind you guys, these guys are coming out after their makeover this summer, so I'm super excited about them. We've got all of our favorite shades are still available, but we will have some new ones to work with. And they just have a little more pop to them. They have a little more oomph, and so I'm really excited for us all to be able to use them. Just as a reminder with them, you're going to mix them 1-to-1. You can use 30 volume or 40 volume in the Agora Royale Oil Developer, and you can leave them on for 30 to 45 minutes, just like a traditional color. I think a lot of people have been a little nervous or trepidatious about high lifts in the past, and I'm really excited for you guys to try these new ones because they definitely have some more muscle to them, and we're going to see a lot of really beautiful tones as they kind of come out. So with that being said, does anybody have any questions just about the placement here? Excellent. That just means I explained everything perfectly. So now I'm going to bring in Deanna. So you'll see this placement on a human with hair. So come on in. All right, so this is Deanna, and I'm gonna have you spin this way, please. So she has all of her darker hair, but we wanted to start getting her a little bit lighter. So I went through and did this placement. Like I said, this top section is all 10-21, and then I alternated 10-21 and 10-14 all through here so that we could get a lot of dimension. So I smoothed out her front sections so that we could, as the start to an updo, like really have a nice smooth surface to work with. And all of the highlights are just like sparkling through here. So it's beautiful on its own, but for something like an updo, it really is kind of elevating everything. I think, unfortunately, a lot of us have had the experience where You get all excited to do an updo, you spend over an hour, it's super, super intricate, and then you can't see any of it because the hair color is just flat. You know, so many of the updo models that we see for different tutorials or campaigns or what have you are highlighted or blonde because we want to see what's going on in there. If you do a beautiful intricate updo on flat hair color, you're going to lose a lot of the work that you did. So this is really going to take it to the next level where we can see a lot of that movement and what's going on in there. And she can just kind of roll with it and wear it however she likes, but for something more formal, we'll be able to really work from here and see all of our different things. So I just want to show you guys a couple little kind of updo moments where we can use this as our starting base. Basically, we can stop at any point and have that be our finish, but we can go all the way up to being fully up. So we've got our front section down. This already could be a full updo style and would be super fun. I did just a super gentle tease through her crown section and then just brushed it over. Gave her plenty of hairspray that I'm sure she's loving. And so really smoothed out that front section. So we could have this be a finished style on its own if she wanted to be mostly down, but make sure that her hair was out of her face. I am a tuck behind my ears kind of gal, so this would be something that would work really well for me because if it's fully down, I'm definitely going to tuck my hair behind my ears. But if that's already done for me, I can walk around looking like a normal person. So I'm just gonna gather kind of a half up, half down ponytail here. And something as simple as looping this through can create a whole different look for us. So we can stop it here and get some curls through here, or we can loop it through and kind of keep rolling with it. So if I spin you this way just a little bit, something as simple as that little loop, I can see all of these ribbons of color throughout, and that's going to bring it to the next level. Then I feel like also we all want to have like kind of quicker, easy updo options because we have weddings from the last 3 years that we're doing. I don't know if people are doing graduation parties they weren't able to do, but I feel like there's a lot of events that we've all been kind of missing out on that now we're able to make up for. So people are ready. So I just took a section from over here and I'm going to give this a little twist, and then I'm just pulling from one side. I feel like braids and updos are not a bad thing, but I feel like we've had so many braids and updos for so long that it's kind of nice to find other ways to give things a little bit of texture. You know, we can still have a lot of movement and texture and that kind of bohemian feel in the hair, but maybe not necessarily a braid every time. But like these sweet little twisties, and I just pull them out a little bit, and then every body needs a buddy. So we'll anchor those guys down. And then again, we have a spot where we could stop. This could be a finish for us. But if we want to keep going, we can then bring all of this together and whoop, not like that though. All right, so sometimes you've got too much hair for one elastic. So I'm going to take a bobby pin, 2 bobby pins attached to an elastic here, And then I'm gonna stick one in, and then wrap this around. And anchor that in there. And then I'll bring, let's flip this up this way. And then we'll secure here. This is the point where the playlist that you're playing while you're doing updos really makes a difference. I'm a 90s pop person through and through, but the playlist really sets the tone for the event, I feel like. So I did a wedding one time where they played, she didn't have a wedding song yet, so they were playing like sappy romantic songs all day, and it was awful. And I'm just finding my little anchors in here. So whenever I'm securing a bobby pin, I'm looking for a place to kind of create an X with an existing bobby pin. And that is gonna kind of keep them secure in where they are. And then once we've got this guy kind of sitting here, of course we have little hairs that we're gonna work with. But I love a hairpin to kind of be a softer attachment, but a lot of times I'm using them in a fish hook kind of way. So I will ahead of time a lot go through and just kind of take my hairpin and peel one side back and then push that down. So now I've got a little fish hook. And then this, I can get into the hair, bring it where I want it, and then attach from there. So it can be really soft and delicate. You don't have to take a lot of volume out of the shape. And so I will fish hook it, get my stuff, and then attach it over here. And then I'll do the same over here. So we can kind of start to spread this guy out. And now we can start to see more of an updo shape that we're into. There's always an ugly middle point for sure. I'm gonna grab these guys and kind of sweep around the bottom and get them secure. And then, just a little bit of a tail over here. And then we can just kind of like peel things apart. Start to use our sprays as like a working tool. So we have a lot of different hairspray options for when you're doing any sort of styling. I'm a tried and true elastic girl, so it's a workable spray that has a shine component to it as well. So we're gonna get some hold, but we can still work through it. So if I decide to move something, I can brush through it and it won't feel sticky, but it'll help me build what I'm doing as well. And it's got a shine aspect to it. So every time I'm using it, I'm getting just a little bit of a kind of shimmer deposit on the hair as well. I'm gonna come in here. I'm gonna look to cover this. And so now I'm to the point where I'm really eyeballing a lot of things. I can start to smooth this out and make sure that I have a bubble that I really like. I think I'm gonna lift her. But even just something simple like this part that is just kind of a bubble of hair where it kind of loops up, we can see that dimension throughout where we had our highlights, and so that is going to kind of break this up so that it still feels like a style as opposed to a bun. But on our end, in terms of the work that we're doing, it's a very simple, easy way to get the hair up. So especially if you're working through a bridal party or if it's prom day and you are just tearing through updos all day, something simple like this could really get your client up to the next level. So from there, we just kind of get to nitpick. So we'll pull these guys. So having the dimension in the hair to kind of make everything a little more easily visible and, visible like that, bobby pin right there. Sometimes I have bobby pins that are temporary because we needed that in the beginning, but now that everything everywhere else is secured, we can just pull those guys right out. So we've got parts that are a lot smoother, we've got parts that are pretty simple in terms of how they go, and then we have parts where we really want to see that texture, and both of them feel really elevated by having not a flat color. And we can start to really move through and see a lot of that movement and make sure that it's working to our advantage. Because like right here, we have her really bright pop from the front is sitting right here, and then we also have how that blends back at the top, but in through here is a little bit deeper because of how everything is played. So if we did the same highlighting technique on her whole head, we would have dimension in the hair, but we would kind of lose the shape. Whereas now we've got the brightest, the kind of second lightest area, and then a little bit of depth. And this depth makes those other light areas pop even more. So they're working together to kind of show us, you can't make a light piece feel light without some depth next to it. So you really want to make sure that you have kind of a cohesive look all over, and then that's going to keep everything looking its best. For prep for Deanna's hair, for her styles today, when we shampooed her, I did a little bit of a leave-in. I'm super into the fiber clinics. I like the volume spray because it's super light. But I did just a little bit of this and the tried and true grip before we blow dried her. And you can get away with a lot of that grip mousse. It will really, really hold the style without the hair feeling too heavy. So if you know that you're going to be prepping for a style, go for it with grip. We didn't do a ton today because we want her to be able to live a life after this. But if she was going to a wedding or prom or a graduation party, we would be able to really load that in there so that she had it in all night. And then for working spray, I'm just using elastic. Once we've got everything set, I'm gonna kind of get a feel for what she's gonna be doing for the night. If maybe there's an after party situation, I could kind of seal the whole style with elastic or our level 2 hairspray, which is freeze. And then she'll be able to take this down later and just kind of have the curls that were under it. If this is it and she needs it to stay all night, we have hairsprays that go all the way up to our level 4, which is concrete. And just like the name kind of implies, if you use the concrete hairspray, nothing's going anywhere. So we have a lot of options for what we're going to do. And I just always like to start on the lighter end and allow myself a chance to really build that hold as I go. But like I said, we've got essentially 4 different possible updos here, because we could have left this tight in the back and this down. There's one. We could have done just our simple, our simple little loop here to give us a little bit of texture. Once we brought over those twisties and had them kind of fluff out a little bit, there's a third style. And then when we bring up this bun, it brings it to a fourth style. So if someone's not sure what they want to do with their hair, or if you're doing like a trial and they want to see how it feels to have maybe a style that's a little more down and then also a style that's fully up, you can work your way from one to the other without having to fully start over for multiple styles. But I think that it's super fun. She could pop a graduation cap on top here, but she could also go to a party and stand next to her mom at her wedding and be in all the pictures and be super happy. So we have a lot of options, and that's the name of the game, especially since we've all been in the house for 2 years. Now we want options. So do we have any questions on the style? I'm gonna let you scoot over here. And that's, you're done. You're good.
Okay.
How do you feel?
I feel good.
Good. All right, so I just threw a lot at you guys. I realized that I talk really fast, so I am just going to kind of recap a couple of things, if that's all right. I am going to just go back to the placement. I feel like this placement works for just about any sort of highlight situation, so I feel like it's really useful to have. So if you guys want head sheets or anything, feel free to reach out to me and I'll draw some up and send them to you. But the focus is going to be on this top triangle, and we're going to do weave slices until we go into just weaves. That's going to be diagonal through this section, and this is going to be our pop. So this is going to be our brightest color or our heaviest impact in terms of how tight we do our foils. I usually do them like baby lights in here, and once I get to the sides, I can make them more traditional highlights. So for the sides, I'm going to start right at her hairline, and then for this situation, I was alternating 10-21 and 10-14, but you can also do it just with one formula or whatever you choose, and you're going to start at the hairline, keep that same angle as you work your way back, and then at the last minute here, kind of you're going to pivot just a little bit so that you're right up to your part line. And then the same thing on the other side, you're going to start at the hairline and work your way back and get yourself right up to that part line. And again, just to reiterate, for the back of the head, it's really up to your discretion. A lot of times I feel like this kind of sectioning brings me all the way back here, and I don't need to do anything for the back. If doing these two side sections are going to create a veil that would really fall over the whole back, don't even worry about the back. If you're having to move a ton of stuff to get to back here, that means that no one will ever see it. But if it's sitting a little higher like this, I just kind of went diagonally across here, and those are going to cover a lot of area on the head while having only a little bit of foils and work on your part. And then if you really want to take it another step further, you can go diagonal the other direction down here so that you have highlights all through. Also, you can always feel free to pop a highlight or two right at the hairline. If it's someone who wears their hair up a lot, that can make a big difference and really elevate a highlight. So you can change things up based on your client. I feel like when you're using the hairline as a place to put a foil and really focusing on the lightness coming from your client's face, it makes their face the light source, as opposed to when you are highlighting right on top and using the sun as your light source. That is great and very traditional, but if your client's face is the light source, it feels very glowy and soft, and it's always going to be really flattering. So I feel like that's something that can work for everybody, even if you just do a subtle piece. If they wear their hair forward, it's gonna be a glow that comes from their face, and if they kind of push it back, you're gonna see that brightness come back from their face. So it really works in a bunch of different scenarios, and it always kind of flushes their cheeks and makes them look really full of life. And then for the updos, I want a little bit of moisture, I want a good bit of hold, and then I'm really just playing with texture. If I want it to be really smooth, the dimension of the hair is going to help me by elevating that, and I just have to worry about getting the hair nice and smooth. And if I want it to be really kind of flowy, more bohemian, the dimension in the hair is really just going to take that to the 10th degree, and I'll have dimension on top of dimension because I have texture in the style as well as texture in the color. So they're going to work together to really take it to a whole different place. And then from there, I promised I would stop for questions. Are there any questions anyone has about new high lifts or about highlight placements or coloring or styling techniques? I will wait to see if any of those come through. And I will just wait patiently. My favorite of the Agora Royale High Lift shades is the 10-21. I feel like it is my go-to. It's not the most powerful in terms of lift. The 10 series is going to give us 3 to 4 levels of lift, whereas the 12 series will give us 4 to 5. But I like the amount of control that I have, and I finish with a beautiful, really clean blonde. I feel like before I was using a lot of the Dash 2s within the Schwarzkopf world, I was really nervous about things being steely or too blue because we just know that our pigmentation is really off the charts, and so I didn't want to be going for a light color and feel like I ended up in a gray area. And we have 10-21 in the high lift, and we also have 9.5-21 in Agora Vibrance. And I feel like both of those are super clean, super white blonde. I've never had them go kind of dingy or ashy in any way. They're really bright and beautiful, and I always love them. So that is my number one with Agora Royale High Lifts, but I can't wait to get to try all of the new colors as well because we have some other really cool options coming too. All right, well, thank you guys so much for joining today. I'm not seeing any questions, but that just means that we have got everything covered. If you guys have any questions that you think of later, feel free to send me a DM on Facebook. My name is Allison Wildy, or on Instagram, I am at allie.style. And thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you guys get to use some of these tips and tricks. Please send me pictures if you do either the foil placement or any of the styles, because I would love to see them and talk hair with you guys. And I will talk to you guys soon. Thank you so much.